Tens of millions of dollars being poured into arguably the most contentious race in the country, aside from the one that's playing out for the White House. TJ Cox and David Valadao have riddled the airwaves with nasty attack ads. Are they working? That's where we begin with our panel this week. Let's take roll call. President of the Fresno County and City Republican Women Federated, Diane Pierce, is with us. Also, Fresno City Council member and former congressional candidate for the 16th District, Esmeralda Soria. Thank you both for being here. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, I want to begin with the attack ads because these have been real nasty. It was the central focus of the debate, as you know, in hopes to get some clarity on the claims from each candidate. So, Esmeralda, I'll start with you. Are the attack ads actually working, or are voters just getting political fatigue from this?
You know, as someone that has ran before as a council candidate and then congressional candidate, I can tell you that majority of these negative ads are spewing lies. And people are tired of this kind of campaigning. I've spent, time talking about issues. That's what people want to hear. So I don't think that those negative ads will work. People are tired of it, tired of the nonsense that has been happening in the last 4 years, and it's really been driven by the president and just the negativity that has come out of the White House that has made it acceptable to continue to have these types of politics.
Well, Diane, your response to that, Esmeralda, really blaming the president for this one, but when you look at David Valadao, Congressman Cox right now, are they doing the attack ads as well because maybe it's hard for them to defend their record?
I think there are attack ads every single cycle, and it's for one reason. They do work. They wouldn't keep doing them if the data showed that people were genuinely disinterested in those types of ads. We don't have to agree with them. We can be tired of them, but certainly they didn't magically appear 4 years ago when President Trump took the White House. They've been going on for decades and much longer than that. So that's just kind of, a common talking point that the Democrats like to throw out there, blame Trump for everything. But there's no basis for it, of course. But I do think that there is validity to getting out negative information about your opponent that you want people to know. And so, again, they do it because it works.
And Esmeralda, I'll come back to you. So really, who did a better job, especially during the debate on Tuesday night, explaining and defending their record and really kind of stating the facts here? We didn't have a fact checker as me moderating. I couldn't fact check and moderate at the same time. So please let me know. What did you think about some of the facts or non-facts that were being slung around?
Unfortunately, a lot of time was spent on, accusations rather than substance. And that is really what is unfortunate, because I do believe that in a debate setting, people do want to hear folks talk about what is their plan to improve their lives. What are they going to do for our country? How is it that their representation going to impact my pocketbook and what is happening in my community? And, there was very little of that. However, I do believe that Congressman Cox has a proven track record of spending a lot of time in the district visiting the small rural communities, something that the former Congressman Valadao didn't do. That is why he lost last time. He was very disconnected. People want you to spend time in their community and stop spending time in Washington, D.C. and be so far removed from reality. And that's what people want to do. And I think that Congressman Cox has done an excellent job by talking about water, especially safe drinking water for all these rural communities. And people want to see someone that is going to work hard. He passed the CARES Act. That is why a lot of small rural cities in Fresno County actually have relief for small businesses and housing relief. Those are the things that people care about.
Esmeralda, I feel like you're on the debate stage already. Diane, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Congressman Valadao did an excellent job of explaining what he did accomplish in his 6 years there. And Congressman Cox, it's interesting, Esmeralda, Councilwoman talks about spending time in the district. When Valadao's in the district, he's actually in his home. And Congressman Cox has to bus himself into the district he represents because he doesn't even live there. So I think that's an interesting point as well. But I think the overall impression I got from the debate was it felt a lot like it did 2 years ago, where you have former Congressman Valadeo, who's kind of the adult in the room, talking about substance, talking about the issues like Councilwoman Soria mentioned, that really is what people want to hear. And of the, dozen or so questions that were directly posed to Congressman Cox, I'm not sure he even answered 2 of them as far as substance goes. And the fact checkers that did do some of that homework following the debate were able to point out that of all of these bills that Congressman Cox supposedly has, sponsored and had all this success with, no, none of them ever came out of committee. So again, this success and track record for Congressman Cox is pretty abysmal. I think he's probably spent more time, or should be spending more time, in front of the ethics committee, because he has an unprecedented number of ethics complaints against him for all of his various business dealings and unidentified interests and things like that. So he's had a very busy 2 years, but it's been mostly trying to clean up his messes.
Well, hold on.
That is partisan politics, because if we look at who has filed all the ethic complaints, it's coming from the Republican Party. So for us to say that those ethic complaints are really, really valid, come on. We're talking about partisan politics again. This is what has really impacted America and is impacting American families. The fact is that people are so polarized that we can't even work together in today's age and actually solve the issues that are impacting families in the Valley. People are struggling.
I want to move on, because we only got now we got about 90 seconds left. Do I need a mute button, a mute mic for you two as well? Because look, the presidential debate, I want to get to it here. This was more tame than Cox and Valadeo. I'm a little shocked by this. It was the final presidential debate. So apparently the mute mic did work and everybody got their 2 minutes. Hardly any interruptions that I noticed. And Diane, I'll start with you. Did President Trump help his case, knowing that it's really boiling down to 4 states? And I'm talking about Arizona, Pennsylvania, Florida, and even Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin. It's really boiling down to those states. Did he help himself?
Absolutely helped himself. And toward the end of the debate, where he actually got former Vice President Biden to admit that he wants to end the oil industry and fossil fuels, I think you're going to see some jumps in Trump's numbers in Pennsylvania coming out of that. It's a critical state. I think it may be the bellwether state for the entire election. And so, I mean, we had an hour and a half of debate, but it may all boil down to that 30 seconds or so where that admission finally came to light. We have the videos of Biden talking about ending fracking, and then again, the videos of him saying, as he did on the debate stage tonight, no, I'm not going to do that. He can't figure out where he is, let alone what his positions are on these things, but the videos bear out that he's been on both sides of virtually every issue.
Esmeralda, 30 seconds rebuttal, please.
I think that this is one of the best debates that Vice President Joe Biden had. He spoke directly to the American people. He stuck to really the work that he has done. And guess what? He admitted mistakes that he's made, and people want to hear that. We are humans at the end of the day. So we're not perfect and we will commit mistakes. But guess what? He is on the right side of history on wanting to advance issues that have impacted people of color. The fact of the matter is that we have a president that said that he's the least racist person in the room. Come on. What a joke and what an embarrassment.
I got to end it there. Hey, we're just getting started here. Things are starting to heat up. We're going to install the mute mic, I think, for you too. All right, coming up, the Republican challenger trying to unseat career politician Jim Casa decides to cancel their debate. Why he did it. Next. All right, tell them we're going to go to, we're going to go to panel 2, okay? That would be the F block. Panel 2, F block. Hey, Jackie, can you get me a pen and a paper so I can write down? Oh, you're writing them down for me? Never mind, he's got it. Okay. Oh. Yeah, what was the time length on that whole block? 9:10. Oh, that's perfect, I think. Hold on. No, that's a little over. Let's see, 8:17, 8:37. Okay, so we're going to cut about 20 seconds out of this one. So this panel's 7:15. Yeah, make it exactly 7 minutes after the Schmidt Camp story at the top, okay? Okay. All right. Diane, Esmeralda, you ready?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, here we go.
Stop using COVID-19 to promote your political agenda. The blood of the children being shot by out-of-control gang members in our city is on your hands and on the hands of every person who does not make public safety a priority.
Fresno County DA Lisa Schmidt-Camp tearing into Governor Newsom's $0 bail order this week, calling on Newsom to do his job and open up the prisons. It comes as a massive crime wave has hit Fresno. 50 murders so far this year and double the shootings from this time a year ago. More than 500 now. The $0 bail policy was created with the goal of keeping jail populations low to avoid COVID-19 outbreaks. And that's how we're going to begin round number 2 with our panel. Let's welcome back Diane Pierce and Esmeralda Soria. So I want to get right to it. Diane, DA Schmidt-Camp, is she right? Does the governor have blood on his hands when it comes to the $0 bail policy?
100%. She is completely accurate in that statement. There have been so many things we have seen this year since March and the lockdown started that were absolutely flying in the face of public safety, of public interest, and those types of things. And she's right when she says that Governor Newsom is using this pandemic, using a health emergency to promote a political agenda. He said from the beginning it was an opportunity to reconstruct or reimagine the government and economy and all of that of our state. And he is, making quick work of accomplishing that goal.
Esmeralda, I'll come to you. Same question here. Does the governor have blood on his hands here, as DA Schmidt-Camp says?
Well, I will say that if she's right, then President Trump has the blood of 218,000 COVID deaths, including 430 Fresno County residents that have died because of COVID. That's 8 more times than those lost in the shootings that we've had in this year alone. The bottom line, guys, is that we all have the responsibility to manage COVID and really the increase in crime in our community. I'm tired of people pointing fingers and using the blame game and these sound bites that sound so great rather than ignoring the problem. We have a pandemic in front of us, and we have a violent crime issue in our community that we need to come together and solve here locally.
Yeah, but Esmeralda, did COVID-19 compound this other problem of $0 bail? Is that what you're saying?
And that's why I'm saying, but rather than continue to blame people and point fingers, we need to get together as some of my council members with community leaders, and I'm glad that they are getting together with the feds to bring the resources that we need. But blaming is not going to solve anything. We need to focus on looking at what we can do together as a local community rather than polarizing the issue.
So Esmeralda, I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to turn our attention to the heat exchange on City Council Thursday morning. Take a look at the video.
This is a corrupt process. You all ought to care. I know you think it's funny, Paul. You're part of the swamp. There's nothing but a swamp going on.
That's totally inappropriate. I'm sorry to the public, by the way. This whole exchange is shameful.
Okay.
And this is not.
Yes, it is shameful, Mr. Carbassi.
Gary, you can resign
corruption.
if there's so much corruption.
Now, here's the backstory on this. Council voted 6-1 in favor of an outside service, Olympic Properties, to clean up Chinatown. The contract, $250,000. It was lowered to about $143,000. No other bids were allowed. That is out of process. It was handed to Jim Veros, who, frankly, he's appeared here as a political analyst on this very show. Gary Bredefeld, is he right? Is this corrupt? Diane, actually, Esmeralda, I'm going to stick with you. You were on the dais. Is this corrupt?
You know, it was kind of sad to hear what happened this morning again, to just hear repeating it, and a little embarrassing because there's lack of decorum and really statesmanship. What happened today is nothing different than what happened a couple weeks ago when we all voted essentially to award a contract to build the animal shelter without going out to bid. So it's nothing new that doesn't happen on the council. I believe that there is something personal going on. It's a vendetta. This is a common theme that has happened on the council, and in terms of people having outbursts, and what is pretty sad and kind of pathetic that, you know, people resort to that type of, you know, lack of decorum and embarrassing. We're the 5th largest city in the state of California, and we are leaders, and we should represent, you know, our community in a better way. And today the debate just, you know, was pretty embarrassing.
Diane, I'll come to you. What do you think about this? And does Bredefeld have a point? He calls it a swamp and corrupt.
Yeah, I think Councilman Bredefeld absolutely has a point. It smells fishy. Maybe at the end of the day it isn't, but it certainly looks and appears that way. And if there was another contract a couple weeks ago that was done the same way without bids, it definitely doesn't sound like the transparent kind of process that is meant to avoid corruption in these things. I also want to say, though, to the previous conversation, that holding our elected officials and our leaders accountable for policies that they put through, particularly when our governor has taken this one-man rule over the state, calling him out for those things and the repercussions of those is not blaming. It's not trying to avoid conversation. It's trying to hold people accountable and remind them that their actions and decisions have consequences. And I think that now I'll shift back to this, but with the contracts, I think that using the pandemic and the emergency order that's in place, that I guess has been kind of the loophole to having to send these things out to bid, that's meant for public health things as far as I understand. So why that would be used here with construction projects or cleanup projects, where certainly there's plenty of time to have these things go through the process.
Listen, I got 30 seconds here, and I want to give you guys each enough time, which is 15 seconds. I don't know, but let's try it. City taxpayer dollars. That's what we put into the city for this kind of thing. Why isn't the city cleaning it up, Esmeralda?
You know, there has been a big problem, not just in Chinatown, throughout the city. That is why we've had to resort to do these types of contracts. I am working with neighborhood industries in the Tower District to do the same thing. The contract is to a different scale, but we don't have the capacity and the resources going out fast enough to get our neighborhoods cleaned up. We know that once a neighborhood is trashed, it continues to attract more trash, and it makes our city, you know, just
Diane, I got 15 seconds. Are taxpayers getting cheated here?
Absolutely. I think it's not a good enough excuse that the city isn't able to do it. In fact, they put a proposal together that said they could accomplish the exact same services for a much, much, much lower price tag. So again, we need to be holding people accountable. If there's services that the residents of Fresno deserve and expect, we need our leaders to make sure that those services are being delivered at the correct amount of money. That's what the process is for, and that's what the residents deserve. The leaders need to
I got to wrap it there. Esmeralda Soria, Diane Pierce, thank you so much, and be well. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Coming up, how Kim Kardashian's favorite birthday gift came from the Library of Congress. It's our tweet of the week. Diane, Esmeralda, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good stuff.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Really? Oh, that was perfect. That was perfect time. That was exactly where it should have been. 8 minutes and 7 seconds. So, what was the first? What was that second block?
The second one?
Yeah.
It was 8:07.
No, I'm sorry. The B block, the first one.
That was 9:10.
9:10.
9 minutes, 10 seconds.
All right. So, okay. So we're about 25 seconds over. Okay, we're fine. Thank you, guys. Yeah, flag, genocide, something genocide, flag, something, you know, art sock related, something like that. Okay. Okay, cool. All right, guys, let's start from the top here.
Boxer bill.
If you don't mind.
Is a Barbara Boxer bill who came onto the floor and spoke in opposition to it.
Mr. Valadeo, let the congressman finish, please.
Sorry, Donald. It's my time on the floor, okay?
Explosive debate filled with verbal jabs. Congressman T.J. Cox and challenger David Valadeo not pulling any punches in an all-out fight for the congressional seat in District 21. We're going to have a breakdown of their only face-to-face encounter before election night.
There was never any fever, anything like that. I believe was a cold.
So you never took a test?
I didn't take a test.
Congressional candidate Kevin Cookingham cancels his debate with Congressman Jim Costa less than 2 weeks until election night. Why he did it, why he believes he doesn't need to wear a mask in some places. And our panel ready to weigh in. From the Fresno County DA calling out Governor Newsom to a very heated exchange on the Fresno City Council. It's all on KC24, Sunday Morning Matters.
Now, from your local election headquarters, KC24, this is Sunday Morning Matters with your host, Alexan Balakian.
And good Sunday morning. Thank you for joining me. I'm Alexan Balakian. Please join the conversation on Twitter at @RealAlexan. Use the hashtag Sunday Morning Matters. Along the way, the state attorney general is shut down in court in the battle over state GOP drop boxes. But first, the heavyweight war of words that went the distance. Congressman Cox and David Valadeo, thank you for both being here. Right after I said that on Tuesday night in Bakersfield, the gloves came off in the first and only debate between District 21 Congressman T.J. Cox and the man fighting to get his seat back, David Valadeo. There was some substance to the debate: immigration, water, COVID-19, and wildfires. But both candidates came out swinging, pulling no punches and leaving voters to figure out who did they really trust.
The reason why I'm sitting here as a congressman and he's sitting here because he got beat 2 years ago is because he never delivered for the district. He doesn't have a record to run on. So they have to create this disinformation campaign, this campaign that's just based on deceit and lies and falsehoods. And frankly, it's pretty pathetic.
And it's the same old thing when it comes to T.J. Cox. He lies, he distorts the truth, and he spins things that aren't actually true. And so the situation is yes, I disagree with the president on lots of issues. I got criticized for that from my own party. But when it comes to what matters here in the Central Valley, yes, I would stand with him when he did something was right. When he was down here in Bakersfield signing that record of decision, like I said that day publicly and on the press, had it been anyone else, Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, signing that piece of paper, I would have stood there right next to him because it was the right thing for the district. And when things are right for the district, a representative in Congress has a responsibility to be there and work with that person.
Spare me the crocodile tears about and the victimization and playing the victim. When you've based your entire campaign on a smear campaign, on a bunch of lies, because you don't have the record to stand on. You can't say that you actually delivered anything for our dreamers. You can't say that you did anything with respect to water in the 6 years you've been there. You know, the fact is that in my first year, in my first term, I've introduced more bills in those first 2 years than you did in 6 years.
I mean, hell, he just quoted the fact that he thinks he's done more in 2 years than I did in 6 years. He can't even get a bill out of his own committee. Think about that. You sit on a committee that's supposed to help us with water. You've introduced bills. You love to brag about introducing bills, but show us where you've actually moved one out of committee and forward. What member of Congress has more ethics complaints? And I'm pretty sure if there's a spot in the Guinness Book of World Records for most ethics complaints in your first term, he's probably won that spot and he's in a book somewhere for it.
He can't say about any bill that he's passed that actually delivered water here to the valley. 6 years, zero.
So that's the most interesting part is you've literally taken credit for my work with the WIN Act. Every dollar that's come to the valley that's helped with water infrastructure has come from the piece of legislation that I helped get signed into law.
The fact that you signed onto it, you're taking a lot of credit where it isn't due.
So
and here's
one,
the thing,
it's a Boxer bill.
If you
literally
don't mind,
is a Barbara Boxer bill who came onto the floor and spoke in opposition to it.
Mr. Valadeo, let the congressman finish, please.
Sorry, Donald. It's my time on the floor, okay?
Your party, your governor, Governor Gavin Newsom, stepped up and sued before the president was on that plane. You did absolutely nothing and continue to do absolutely nothing. And that's literally the only thing that we've had in 40 years that will help us deliver water. And when did you step up and fight your own party and do something right for us? That was your best opportunity and you failed.
As you can see there, both candidates came out firing. Things did calm down when we hit the issues, especially COVID-19 and wearing face masks. David Valadao separating himself from President Trump's ideology that the pandemic is turning the corner.
COVID-19 is a true threat to our communities. We have to make sure that we do everything in our power to keep ourselves safe, and I do that along with my family. Keep masks in my pocket, keep them in my pickup, and we make sure we do everything we can to follow the rules.
Congressman?
Yeah. Naturally, we've been wearing face masks and following the CDC's guidelines for months now. We're not behind a president and administration that's saying, that's going to admit to themselves that they lied to the American public because they didn't want to scare the American public. We're not behind a president that's saying it's magically going to go away. We follow the scientists and we follow the experts. And the number one thing that we could do is wear a mask.
All right, so with all that being said there, Mr. Valadao, Congressman, why is it that during the height of the pandemic, both of you released social media posts that showed no mask and very minimal social distancing? Mr. Valadao, I'll start with you.
So the specific ones that were released, or the pictures that were posted, was at an event that I was at, and we had actually done everything the right way. We took temperatures on the way in, wore masks the whole time. We removed them for the pictures.
Were tests given?
No tests were given, but temperatures were taken. Everything that we could possibly do to keep us safe was done. We removed them just for the pictures, and then after the pictures were done, we put everything right back on. So it sadly was just another political attack, but the reality was we followed all the guidelines, and we made sure that we kept everyone safe. In fact, a lot of the folks in that were actual doctors, so following their guidelines makes sense too.
Congressman, how do you explain your post?
Well, the last photo that I think is out there of me is back in July when we had the face mask before the widespread directives that came out from the CDC. But we've always been very, very diligent about wearing masks, about social distancing, and trying to keep ourselves safe. I think that you see that there's one party that is dedicated to keeping ourselves safe. One side that's having open air rallies and no masks, and thinking that wearing a mask is some type of political statement, rather than caring for each of our citizens. And going at it, as I said before, it's my goal, right, and my intent, that everyone's health is my #1 priority.
We've heard from Governor Newsom that he is not willing to just accept the FDA and have a task force to review the science of the FDA. Do you approve of that, for one? Or two, would you take the vaccine right away? Mr. Valadao, we'll start with you.
So when it comes to vaccines, I've never been a huge fan, but I do take vaccines. I do my flu vaccine, I do lots of vaccines. But when it comes to COVID, when it is developed and the FDA does release it and say that it's safe, I mean, I know that the FDA does a great job, and I would trust them and take the vaccine.
Congressman?
I'll take the vaccine right after Anthony Fauci takes the vaccine, all right? We've seen how this administration has politicized public health. The other day, just to go back on the masks, right? Their spokesman of the coronavirus task force, this guy from Stanford, Atlas, he said masks don't work, right? Because of the blowback from the real public health professionals, right? They rescinded and deleted that tweet. This is not an administration that believes in science. The other day, President Trump said that exact thing, right? I don't believe the science. And so I tell you what, I am going to take that vaccine once it has been absolutely vetted by all the true professionals.
But is it fair that Governor Newsom will wait and have his own task force?
Here's what you're saying there, is that what Governor Newsom is saying? And this is what the whole crime with this administration, how they politicize our public health and our own safety, right? He's saying that we don't trust this administration. And I don't trust this administration. I don't know who would. 210,000 people is not something to base any trust, dead is not something to base any trust on. You know what 210,000 people is? We're due an apology from this administration and this president.
So the problem with this is, again, it's partisan, partisan, partisan. There are thousands of people who work at the FDA that are so far below the pay grade of a political appointee that politics are not going to play that kind of a role. And this is exactly why it's wrong to have someone like TJ Cox in this seat. We need people who are looking to build us together and bring us together. And he wants to point fingers at everyone else as the reason why we're so divided. But as you can see right here, right now, in his rhetoric, it's attack, attack, attack. The FDA through all different levels. Yes, you get below the political class, the ones that are appointed by this president. But you get below that, there's a lot of good, hardworking people who are doing their very best because they have families at home doing their very best to keep them safe. And I think that those people are going to do their job, and I trust them to do their job, and the FDA is someone that we should look to. And to play politics with this issue is just plain disgusting.
All right.
And again, you can watch the entire debate on our website, yourcentralvalley.com. Up next, our panel's going to weigh in. Are the attack ads by Cox and Valadeo really impacting voters? Next.
On a king-size bed. When Cohen and the actress appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live, she stole the show.
Literally. Borat's subsequent movie film starts streaming on Amazon Prime tomorrow. The nation breathed a sigh of relief when a mother who'd been missing in Zion National Park for nearly 2 weeks was found alive. But now one of the police officers involved in the search says he has questions.
Unlike the 21st congressional district race, the one in District 16 is tame and even friendly. The Republican challenger, Kevin Cookingham, a longtime educator, is not only running for Congress for the first time, but he's doing it with a clean campaign. No attack ads. In fact, no television ads on mainstream TV. Cookingham joined me earlier this week on your local election headquarters.
But we're not going to go below the belt and say some things that are not appropriate or say some things that we think are extremely offensive. But we do feel it's important to talk about success, results, and what needs to happen in the 16th district.
Is it working for you not to have an attack ad on Jim Costa?
I think it is working extremely well, and I'll tell you why. I believe that this 16th district has changed. In fact, I believe our whole nation has changed. And we have a lot of Democrats. I'm a Republican, but we have a lot of Democrats actually that are on our volunteer staff. And so you can see the moods changing, and they're actually helping because they say that many of the people in Sacramento at the state level, the local levels throughout California, as well as the federal level, national level, do not represent the Valley and the Democrats, Republicans, no party preferences, do not represent our values here. And so I would align more of the people in Sacramento and some of their extreme views and what's harming this state, like our governor and some of those in the Assembly and the Senate, to more of the San Francisco, Bay Area type Democrats. But the Democrats here are much more moderate. They're family oriented, hardworking, along with Republicans and no party preferences. They're just good, salt of the earth people.
Well, Democrats have typically held a 45 to 25% edge in voter registration in the district. Are you seeing any early polling that suggests that you can pull the upset here?
We have done our own internal polling, and the results have been wonderful. And you probably know this. I mean, you're up on everything, it seems. And 58% of our population in the 16th district is Hispanic. 82% of them are Catholic. And most of those Catholics believe that life is, of course, sacred and holy. They believe that in strong family values, the work ethic. They don't believe in a lot of the things that are being put out to us in many cities at the state and federal levels. And so we're seeing a lot of these people come behind this campaign. In fact, at this point, we've got 400 volunteers that are going out through Fresno, Madera, and Merced counties. And we've seen some wonderful internal polling results.
Mr. Cookingham, obviously your health has come into question in this race as of recently. One,
yes.
Are you healthy? Have you tested positive for COVID-19? I know you had to cancel a debate as well.
Yeah, Sunday night we were to debate on Tuesday, and Sunday night we got a list of basically COVID disclosures. And so when my director of communications talked to me about that, I said, does it say anything about me being exposed at all to somebody with COVID? And she goes, yep. And I said, well, does it say anything about coughing? And then she said, yep. I said, well, if somebody's going to lie about this, they're going to lie about other things. And I said, we got to be honest with them. So she called Channel 26 and just said, we just got to be honest with you. He did have a cold, and it wasn't the dry cough that is indicative of COVID. There was never any fever. anything like that, I believe was a cold.
So you never took a test?
I didn't take a test. And I didn't even take a test. So,
well, you know, the reason why I asked that is because COVID-19 is a big central focus of all races in the entire country, including this one. Would you agree to a national mask mandate to help save lives and mitigate the spread? Because, you know, in a lot of the pictures that we've seen you lately, including the Emmanuel Schools protest, we didn't see you wearing a mask. Do you believe in wearing a mask?
Well, it depends on the situation. If I'm in a situation where people are very, very concerned about that, I always carry a mask with me. I put it on in certain situations. Others I don't. I don't know if you saw the study that just came out the other day, and I can't remember who did the study, but they studied people that had come up positive for COVID, and they asked a number of questions. They said, first of all, do you always wear a mask? Do you usually wear a mask? Most of the time, seldom wear a mask, and then the last one was never wear a mask. 70% of the COVID positive people always wore a mask, and another 15% said they mostly wore a mask. Only 3.9% of the COVID positive patients said they never wore a mask. So there's a lot.
Do you not want to wear a mask then in public if you're not social distancing?
Well, I always wear a mask in Costco and places that require it. Some other places I don't. So if I'm at church, for instance, and we're outside and it's not required or whatever, or another event, I won't wear one. If they want me to wear one, I grab it out of my pocket, I throw it on.
Now, meantime, there's another newcomer to the political arena. His name is Todd Cotta, candidate for State Assembly District 32, which encompasses all of Kings County, some of Kern County. Cotta is trying to unseat the Rudy Salas, who's looking to win a 5th term.
We are not the big populations, and we have a person that's in that seat right now that refuses to speak out against this governor, that refuses to speak out against the things that are happening to our state, whether it's giving pedophiles more rights, whether it's the things that they're doing in Sacramento. And all he does is sit there and vote with the Democrats and not say a word, and just he's a nice little pawn, I guess you might say, for the Democrats. And for me, I have a very wide-ranging scope when it comes to getting the message out. I have a YouTube channel that's got millions of views. I've got people that follow me that I can start getting the message out as how Sacramento is destroying. And I'm not scared to speak out against the leadership in Sacramento like my opponent is, so that we can start pulling attention to what they're doing wrong up there.
Mr. Cotta, you know, last week you were in a debate and you said that you purposely frequent businesses where you don't have to wear a face mask inside of them, including your own business. That is against the governor's state order, especially in the South Valley. Why are you doing that?
The government state order is not a legal order. It has no legal precedence. He cannot mandate this. I will not be one of his minions lining up behind him and saying, yes, sir, and saying, yeah, I'm whatever you say, sir. I will not do it. He has no legal authority to do that. Therefore, I am not going to obey it.
Are you saying that if you were elected for this seat in District 32, you would push and even maybe promote all businesses reopening at full capacity?
100%. The governor had no right to lock us down. In order to have a state of emergency, a state of emergency requires that the government be overwhelmed with the problem and that the hospitals, police, fire, and ambulance cannot handle the situation. At no time in this state were we ever at a point to call for a state of emergency, ever. We were never overloaded. We were never overfull in the hospitals. The law enforcement was not taxed to its end. Fire and medical were never taxed. There should have never been a state of emergency.
All right, still to come, we're going to head to Sacramento for the latest on the battle over the ballot drop boxes. Well, the battle over the state GOP drop boxes winding up in court and taking a turn that surprised the state attorney general. On Wednesday, a Sacramento judge rejecting Javier Becerra's demand for information on the Republican Party's ballot boxes. Our Ashley Zavala with the latest in the ongoing saga over ballot harvesting.
A Sacramento Superior Court judge Wednesday sided with the California Republican Party, ruling it does not have to hand over the names and addresses of voters who used GOP-sponsored ballot boxes.
It will be a full day in hell before the Republican Party voluntarily hands over to the Secretary of State the names of voters who entrusted their ballots to us. We believe they're entitled to privacy. We do intend to respond formally in writing to the discovery requests that were propounded on us, but they may not be able to get all the information that they want. But for now, it's round one that went to us.
Wednesday's decision comes a day after the state's Democratic Attorney General and Secretary of State sued the California GOP. Through the lawsuit, the two are attempting to get the party to comply with an investigation into unauthorized ballot drop boxes. A spokesperson for the Attorney General said Wednesday it continues to review the matter and will continue to take steps, including in court where necessary, to ensure every voter who casts their ballot will have their voices heard. The battle over the ballot boxes is now into its second week after members of the Republican Party set up some drop boxes in GOP offices and near gun shops and churches. State Democratic leaders claim the boxes are illegal, while Republicans remain confident they are in line with state ballot collection laws. How many boxes and their exact location, the GOP won't say. In Sacramento, Ashley Zavala, KC24 Local News That Matters.
And coming up, California is raking in a record number of ballots being mailed in and casted. But is it also a record turnout here in Fresno County? We're going to check in with Brandy Orth next. Well, there continues to be a record turnout of ballots being casted and mailed in statewide. Close to 5 million ballots have been counted. Again, over 21 million ballots were mailed out. And this week, Fresno County reaching a new record of early voting ballots being cast. More than 118,000 ballots have already been turned in. So with 9 days until election night, we caught up with the Fresno County Clerk, Brandy Orth.
About 60% of them have come back through the mail, which is good. And then 40% have come back through our wonderful drop box program. You know, we have 66 official drop boxes out there among the county. The list is in your ballot package and in your voter information guide. Open 24/7. They're all outside. They're all very secure. And so it's a great way to drop off your ballot and have no contact.
Well, has there been any more of the issues regarding the unofficial ballot drop boxes in Fresno County? What have you been seeing?
No, not at all. Those were removed last week. And so we're just continuing to promote our Dropbox program, and folks are using it.
Well, the deadline to register to vote was Monday. If you missed that deadline, what do you tell voters now?
Okay, so now we're in the conditional voter registration period, which means that you have to appear in person, either at my office or at the vote centers when they open October 31st. It's a little known fact, but a great way to vote in person is to come to our Kern Street office right now. We've had about 1,000 people in the past few weeks come through here. There's no line, very easy. Some COVID safety precautions in place, but if you want that in-person experience, come on down Monday through Friday and we can help you.
You know, I know you sent me a little video just moments ago about the signature on ballots. So I kind of wanted to ask you this question. How many ballots have you received already that are not matching the signature from before? And were those ballots mailed to the wrong people as well? Are you seeing any of that?
Well, that's a good question about how many cure letters we are sending out. I don't have that number, but in March we sent out 2,500 cure letters, and all but 500 people took advantage of that opportunity. And so as soon as we can get your envelope and we make that signature comparison or not, we will immediately send you a letter, and then you can act on that and sign that form letter and return it to us. And so this is the famous purple envelope that you return your ballot in, and here's where you sign.
Got it.
Right.
Very good. How many ballots though are being considered either to the wrong address and you're getting them back, or those people aren't living anymore? Any of that happening?
Yes, and we rely on a variety of sources of information to keep our voter rolls clean. One of them is from the post office, tells us if the voter has moved or if they don't even know where they went to. And the other is from residential addresses who may receive mail for someone who's no longer there for whatever reason. Refuse that mail, cross out that name and address, send it back to me. I'd really appreciate that. Yeah. We typically get about a couple thousand or more envelopes back untouched because people have moved out of county or even moved within the county. But it's good information to have. And if you've not received your ballot for whatever reason, call us at 600-VOTE and make sure that we get you one.
And of course, you can find out more about propositions, general election information on our website, yourcentralvalley.com. Up next, our panel is going to return their reaction to the Fresno County DA Lisa Smitkamp ripping Governor Newsom, saying he has blood on his hands. Finally, our tweet of the week, and not to draw any more attention to Kim K, but in a tweet that I would say is worth keeping up with the Kardashians, involved the Library of Congress. Here's the tweet on Wednesday. Quote, the best birthday present, the United States Library of Congress announcing it will now use the subject heading Armenian genocide, end quote. Aside from Kim K turning 40, several congressional leaders pushed for the Library of Congress to change their heading of the atrocities from Armenian massacre to Armenian genocide. On Wednesday, that change was made by the world's most prestigious library. And it comes during a time when Armenia is once again fighting for their survival, as Azerbaijan and Turkey continue to shell millions of Armenians in the region known as Artsakh. So Congress and the Library of Congress recognizing the genocide. It's now time the Oval Office follows suit. That's our time. We'll see you next week.